Hey guys, what's going on? It is Wednesday, and if it is Wednesday, it is time for Storytime with Taffy, episode number 27, a late upload this evening, and for that I apologize. It has been a nutso fucking week here at the channel. As most of you are well aware, we went down to Los Angeles, and craziness just ensued around every corner. It felt like we were accomplishing things. We have guests lined up for miles, T-Mart, Gold Glove, Bendro, Jericho. We have people trying to get us in touch with Syndicate, with Tobuscus. And of course, next week's episode is no less epic as it lines us up with ownage pranks. But I won't bore you with all the LA details. We have a lot of vlogs and footage that we are pouring through. Rob will begin to edit all of that together so that you can see what happened down there, not just here. Speaking of LA, my first ever Storytime went up on Respawn. I won't lie, I was hoping for a few more views, but at the same time, the ratings were spectacular. The support was great. It was humbling. I was really kind of nervous about it because a straight up commentary going up onto Respawn is just begging to get decimated by the sort of slightly bitter, slightly jaded Respawn community that has been subjected to shitty commentary after shitty commentary by 13 to 18-year-olds who are convinced they have a crazy amount of life experience and everybody wants to hear about it. I am twice that age and I had to be begged to put these stories on the air because I was just sure that it would tank, but Rob and the PA crew made me kind of get in front of the microphone and bring all this out for you, and I'm really glad that it's going well because I enjoy doing them for you, and I'm certainly glad that you guys seem to enjoy listening to them. On the Respawn episode that I put up, a lot of people in the comment section asked whatever happened to Katie, my girlfriend at the time that had all the shitty stuff happen to her. She actually ended up marrying the guy that she dated after me. They've been together ever since, so more than a decade, and he, from what I can tell, treats her really well. Years after the fact, years after they got together and hooked up, and there was some awkwardness about me not necessarily wanting to let her go to someone else, I bumped into that gentleman, we'll call him Marvin, at a beer hall shooting pool, and he and I hung out, and I bought him drinks, and strangely enough, we ended up at a strip club together, and I sat there and got drunk next to him while a blonde woman shook her booty in our faces. That he was exactly what Katie needed, and I could not be more proud or happy or excited for the both of them. I wish them both the best of luck, and then bought several pictures to celebrate their matrimonial happiness, I guess. I don't know. But she's happy now. She's with somebody who treats her well. But none of these things are the topic of this week's story time. Number 27, Pure Chaos number 11 wants to know, Taffy, have you ever been in trouble with the law? For the most part, I was a pretty good kid growing up. I was that snot-nosed punk in the corner who got straight A's and had perfect attendance. Towards my high school years, things got a little dicey. If anybody here follows the Storytime series, you'll know about Simon, my best friend for many years, who was equally an empowering older brother figure and at the same time a terrible influence. Simon used to do a lot of shoplifting and make me his lookout. I never actually stole a whole bunch of stuff myself because it always kind of made me really uncomfortable. I knew what I was doing was wrong, but it just felt kind of fun to bend and break the rules. He didn't really get stopped until his parents figured it out. As much denial as they may have been in, it was tough for them to acknowledge the fact that he had taken $300 to the mall to go Christmas shopping, come back with $375 worth of merchandise and $250 cash. Once the math added up that poorly, even his mom had to acknowledge the fact that maybe her son was a bit of a ne'er-do-well, and she loaded up all the merchandise, and she, if you're waiting for me to say, took Simon back and made him own up for all the things that he did wrong, you're incorrect. She actually mailed all the stuff back in an anonymously marked box to the mall and never forced her son to face up to the music. It's the exact opposite and in direct contrast to what my parents did when we came up upon this week's story time. Simon and I did a lot of really stupid little things like shoplifting and curfew violations and trespassing for the sake of general hijinks, but there was one time in particular where we nearly got ourselves into a shitload of trouble. When you are in southern Idaho, there's not a whole hell of a lot to do, so you must invent things. And the more rural the area gets, the more crazy the shit is that you come up with to do. One of the things Simon and I enjoyed doing was going rock chuck hunting. If you've never been rock chuck hunting, a rock chuck is basically a gigantic steroid-ridden groundhog. It's considered a vermin because it goes and burrows underneath the farms and acres of crops, especially of Idaho farmers that are doing corn and wheat and alfalfa and all these things that need good, dense, nutrient-packed soil beneath the roots and not a whole shitload of Vietnamese-style tunnels. So a lot of farmers will give young kids like Simon and I permission to take 22 rifles out onto their farms and properties and shoot as many of these little bastards as we can for recreation. Simon and I decided to do this. We took our 22 rifles, loaded them into my Pathfinder, went over to the Snake River Canyon Rim, found a farm property of a family friend, spent a good part of the day cracking rounds into vermin and tossing them over the canyon wall. And strange as that may sound, on the way back, Simon was kind of like Dr. Dolittle. Okay, granted, gigantic vermin rodents were not his thing, but cuddly, cute, pet-type animals were totally his thing. He loved them more than he loved humans. He was forever bringing strays home, and it was driving his parents crazy. So as we're driving home, it just pains him that a cat, a little tiny kitty cat, jumps under the front wheels of my Pathfinder, and we hear this sickening thump thump crunch, and Simon grabs the wheel and like forces my car off to the side of the road and is just yelling, we've got to stop, we've got to stop. So we get out and we stop, and he grabs his 22 rifle and he walks up to the cat and shoots it once in the skull because he doesn't want it to suffer, because it was in a bad way. I mean, it was barely alive. I don't even know if it was alive so much as the motor functions were still firing off, and he just wanted it to be over to make sure that the cat was dead. So he pops it a couple times in the forehead. We get back in the car and we drive away. We get about 2 miles down the road, and this car comes zipping the fuck up behind us and runs us, literally runs us off the road into a ditch. And I mean, we didn't like wreck, but it was like squealing tires, and like it was like a Charlie's Angels sideways fucking maneuver that this guy pulled, and I have no idea who he is or why he did it. So I jump out of the car, and if I have anything with buckets of it to spare, it's road rage. And to this day, I will put my life and my car in jeopardy to make a point. So I get out of this car absolutely shooting lava at this guy. What the hell is the matter with you, you dumb old bastard? You could have gotten someone killed. And he's firing right back, but I have no idea why. And he just finishes it off by like screaming at us, I've got your license plate number, dude, you stupid teenage fucks. And he's just screaming like over and over, and we're just going back and forth. And this entire time I've kind of got one hand on my 22 rifle because I don't know what this crazy son of a bitch wants from me. I just know that he tried to kill me, and now he's screaming at me, and then he writes down my license plate number, gets in his car, and drives off. Bizarre, right? So that's the topic of conversation for the entire drive home as we get back to the house, my house, and we're talking about it, but we go in and we get really quiet once we know that my parents can hear. And they noticed that we were really emphatic about something, but got quiet once we got into their earshot, and they picked up on it like that. So they drag us into the living room and basically set us down and put a spot lamp on us and just say, well, we can sit here until you guys want to tell us the story about what was so interesting when you came in the door. And that was it. I mean, it's the waiting game. And after probably for a solid 15 minutes, we tried to wait it out. And ultimately, we decided we hadn't done anything wrong, so there was no reason not to tell. So we told them the entire story and spared no details. And my parents put all the pieces together much faster than we did. And they said, isn't it obvious that's the guy whose property you were popping your gun off in front of? And this is where I say it comes into direct contrast with what Simon's parents would have done. They said, well, you need to go back and own this. We need to go back and talk to that guy. And neither one of us wanted to do that because unkind words were given with vim and vigor between the two parties before. So I was not all that excited about going back and trying to play nice with this guy because I was still pissed at him. But ultimately, I knew that my parents were right, and we took my Pathfinder and went back out to this guy's property. And my dad let out first because, as you guys know from the fucking story times and times past, my dad strikes an imposing figure, and as pissed off as this guy may have been, he was not going to tussle with a man who looked like he might end him. So my dad led in, explained the situation, and then we went up and started to talk to him, and then the cops ended up coming out, and we were kind of confused as to why they were even there in the first place, but they wanted to clear everything up because they were sure that this guy had called the cops. That's why he took the license plate number down. So the cops come out, and the long story shrunken into as condensed a nugget as I can make it is that this guy is sitting in his kitchen with his family around doing dishes after dinner and hears snap, snap, snap up in the wind, and he sees Simon with a 22 rifle popping off rounds, and he notices, and we didn't see this, that the rounds have scared his horses. And so not only have these kids killed his cat, but they've spooked his horses, who have now broken through a wooden fence and are running free with a gimpy leg. And all this shit is just like, it's an assault. This guy's just seen these kids with 22 rifles just assault his compound, just full frontal artillery barrage. And so he goes batshit crazy and gets in his car and runs us off the road, but never explains why he did it. Goes back to the house, calls the cops and says, hey, there are these kids driving by my house shooting 22s at my horses and my livestock and my pets and my animals and my fucking kids and Christmas tree, and they killed Santa and shot the Easter Bunny in the dick. And he lists off all the things that we supposedly did. And the cops, being that the Jerome Police Department is the finest collection of law enforcement officers to ever wear a badge, put out an all-points bulletin using my license plate number to say this white Nissan Pathfinder is a suspect in a drive-by shooting. This is what happens when the rumor game gets played by the law enforcement officers. So now the cops come out to this farm uniform and they have hands on pistols and have said, "We have an all points bulletin that your Nissan has been involved in a drive-by shooting." And once the air is really quickly cleared, I'm told that had my parents not forced me to go out and talk to this guy and then bring the police in to talk to us as well, that if they had seen my Pathfinder, if I'd gone to get a chocolate milkshake, they would have seen my Pathfinder, checked the license plate number, noticed that there was an APB out for a drive-by shooting with that car, and they would have pulled me out of the Nissan with a sawed-off shotgun pressed up against the base of my skull and dragged me to the asphalt and handcuffed me. And they would have cleared it up later after I'd been arrested, booked, and thrown into general population of the local jail, where some guy named Tiny would have worn my asshole like a pinky ring. I shouldn't have hung out with Simon as much as I did. The stories that came out of it were good. There was never a dull moment, even when you wish there would be sometimes. I miss that guy. I haven't seen him in a really long time. The last time I saw him, literally the last time I saw him, he was actually getting his ass beat after he promised me that if we hung out one more time before I moved east that he wouldn't start any shit. So I walked off, called a cute girl, and ended up spending most of the night doing the grown-up. To the best of my knowledge, he got the shit kicked out of him and spent most of his evening dodging the cops. Again, it's a running theme with this guy. Long story short, and the moral of the story, I suppose, is that you've got to own the consequences of your actions, especially when you think you've done nothing wrong, but even when it looks like the situation's gonna suck. I can only imagine the kind of shitstorm I would have inherited if my parents hadn't forced me to go back out there and be a grown-up and accept the situation for what it was and not what I wanted it to be, which was if I just ignored it long enough, it would go away. I guess that's as good a place as any to stop. Once again, I really just want to thank you guys for supporting the Respawn video. I talked to Scott McDonald, one of the content producers over there at Respawn, and he basically said I can post to Respawn as often as I like. I do not like the idea of neglecting the fan base that I've garnered here at the Mr. Waffles channel, so I think maybe once or twice more before I go off to college, I will dump an episode up there on Respawn, a particularly good one. I will drag all of you over to the Machinima Respawn page to watch it, but I don't really want to flood it or turn it into a weekly thing. I'm not that narcissistic. I don't really want or need like a following or anything like that. I just kind of like the idea of drawing in a handful more people who might enjoy this that hadn't had an opportunity to be exposed to it yet. Crazy edited montages and blog footage from LA coming up shortly. As always, head down to the comments section and give me comments, suggestions, story ideas, anything and everything you think is pertinent to Storytime with Taffy. I will take it all into consideration. I read every single comment, even if I don't respond. That'll do it. Episode number 27 is in the books. On behalf of the Mr. Waffles channel, thank you once again for tuning in. We will catch you this time next week. My name is Taffy, and I am out.